Hello, I'm back again with another video. I think I'm about to start an uploading streak. It's been a while. Let's talk plant supplies. Everything I use to maintain my plant collection. Hello, popping in from editing this video, and I felt like I needed to clarify that I am by no means saying that you need these products to maintain your plant collection. These are just the things that I've kind of collected over the years and have continued to use because they're convenient. But again, I don't think that all of these are absolutely necessary. This is just more of a list of things that I use. So if you're facing some sort of plant collection issue that you're not quite sure how to tackle, maybe this can help inspire some ideas of what to look into to take care of that problem. I don't think every person needs all of these products. Okay, I've divided my products into 5 different categories: substrate, nutrition, pests, lighting, and miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is kind of the display section. So like kind of extra little things, planters, hangers, things like that. Timestamps will be down below if you want to skip around a little bit. Substrate. 2 main things I use substrate for: potting my plants, of course, and number 2 is propagation. I don't propagate in the same potting mix that I use for my houseplants. When I'm propagating, I much prefer to propagate in sphagnum moss. Not sphagnum peat moss, that's a totally different thing. I don't use that period in my collection. Long fiber sphagnum moss, okay? Specifically, I use the Best Grow brand. This brand is grown and harvested in Australia, where the laws are pretty strict on keeping this long fiber sphagnum sustainable. Plus, it just seems a lot cleaner than the other brands you find at like Home Depot or big box stores. So that is why I like this one. It's airy and fluffy, but it also holds like 20 times its weight in water. So it's really good at keeping root systems moist, a little humid around whatever node we're trying to propagate or whatever roots we're trying to grow. I wouldn't use it for large plants because in larger pots, it dries out a lot more quickly. So it just isn't it isn't a good thing for like large plants. For my large plants, I use go-to potting mix. How I would describe this mix is it's chunky, but also like spongy. So it really doesn't compact too roughly around root systems. If you try to compact it, it kind of like bounces back. It's spongy. You guys know what spongy is. Why am I over explaining? I do mix this myself. The main bulk of this mix is cocoa coir. I don't have any on hand because I do bulk mix everything together, but I will put photos up of the exact brands I use for my mix, again, and the links will be down below. This stuff is amazing at holding moisture. Again, it's very spongy and light, doesn't crush or like restrict root systems too much. Next 2 ingredients are orchid bark and cocoa chips. I do use both of these, although I don't think that's totally necessary. They just have kind of different textures and sit a little differently in the potting mix, but I like the cocoa chips because they can hold moisture. These come in a dehydrated brick and you need to soak them for honestly like an hour for them to really work at their best. So I like to add a little bit of this into the mix to hold moisture, but then again, add to some of that chunkiness that I like in a potting mix. And then orchid bark. It still does hold moisture, but the pieces are a lot smaller. The one I use in particular, I really like the size of the bark chips, which just helps things settle nicely down around the roots. And I think it looks nice. I also use this bark as a top dressing on my outside plants. Looks great. Maybe my favorite additive for this whole mix are the chunky perlites. This perlite is quite big and quite chunky, which of course is very important for a potting mix like this that relies on chunky material to help allow airflow. Whether you use like my exact recipe or not, I think this perlite is the best addition into any potting mix really that you prefer to use. If you want to add more chunky pieces to help keep things from compacting or staying too wet, chunky perlite. This chunky perlite is so good. It also doesn't break down as quickly as the smaller, finer perlites you typically find for sale in stores. It doesn't break down the same way. Those little ones, you can like pinch them. Let me see if I can find one. I don't have any of the small perlites to show you, but this big perlite takes a lot more to break apart and break down. If you're gonna do perlite, like go for this one. You know what, the small perlite, sometimes you'll like water the plant and over time you realize like, hey, all of these small pieces of perlite are raising to the top of the planter. This chunky perlite will not do that. It's gonna stay put where you put it, where you want it, evenly distributed throughout the pot. It's amazing. Last ingredient, vermiculite. I like to use a little bit chunkier vermiculite. There are like different, I think it's called grades for how big the pieces of vermiculite are, but this is the one I use. The pieces are a little bit bigger and I think it works well in the ratio I'm going for. So these bigger pieces, when wet, kind of expand, and yeah, they just turn kind of spongy, and I really, really like that in a potting mix. I want my additives to absorb as much moisture and hold as much water as possible so that it's available for the root systems at any given time. Like, I don't want things drying out too much, but also not stay wet for too long. Like, this is the mix I'm going to continue using. Sometimes I do end up putting sphagnum moss that I've used back into this potting mix. I will like tear it up into this size pieces, again, for moisture retention, but also that like chunkiness and fluffiness that I want in my mix. Yeah, this is the mix. The mix, I've talked about it so many times on my channel. That's it as far as substrate goes, which brings us to nutrition. I am sure if you've watched any of my videos in the past, like you already know, what I'm going to mention. Duh. Liquider, my main girl. You add the concentrate into a gallon of water, and that is your mix. And then you add a little bit of the mix into whatever you're watering with. So it is extremely concentrated. You only need to use a little bit to water your plants. It's really easy after the first few times of using this to like get used to using it and just kind of be able to eyeball how much you're supposed to add. I love this because I can use it regularly with those 80 to 90% of my waterings and not have to worry about any of my plant leaves burning. It also doesn't smell, so that's a win for sure. I'm looking at you, fish fertilizer. That crap is stinky. Loved it. It worked, but it was stinky. This is what I replaced the fish fertilizer with. It works great. I love it. I can't say enough good things about this. I also like to use this as a foliar spray for my Hoyas. They take in nutrients through their leaves and their stems. Kind of any part of a Hoya takes in nutrients, so I like to spray them with liquid or water as well. It's great. As my plants get larger, they kind of start to outgrow the size of their root ball. With just the liquider, I did find it kind of hard to keep my larger plants like satisfied. I just was having to water them all the time. And if I wasn't keeping up on using liquider with every single watering really for my larger plants, they did kind of start to discolor and look a little nutrient deficient. Sometimes I miss a watering and I'm just too lazy to mix up the liquider, which like, it's fine. It's not a huge deal, but if that happens too many times, then I could definitely see a difference in my plants. So I think a slow release granule plant food like this is perfect. I just sprinkle a little bit of this to the tops of my plants, even my small plants I do now, and it's kind of there as like backup nutrition for the plant roots. This is a much easier addition to my routine. I only apply this twice a year, once right before spring starts, so like end of winter when I can kind of smell in the air that it's gonna start turning to spring. Even if it's still cold, it's like turning to spring. That's when I know it's time to apply my first round of the granules. End of July, I'll do a second round, or like more of a spot treatment. I only really add this to anything I've repotted over the growing months, or anything that's grown pretty drastically, like put out multiple sets of leaves, has changed a lot during the growing season. Then I'll go ahead and add a little bit more of this to help keep them going through the rest of summer and also the winter time. But yeah, I don't really apply this ever in the winter. I just try to stick with liquid dirt in the cooler, less growth months. These are my go-tos, nutrition-wise. Since liquider is a staple in my nutrition category, I'm gonna also include all of my like watering supplies here. First of which, my go-to Arizona Diet Iced Tea Jug. Have had this for years. This is what I use. It's like stained brown now from adding liquider into it over all of this time. This is my favorite watering can. This is perfect. This is the perfect watering can. It's so ergonomic. I can really control where I'm pouring the water. I can water multiple small to medium plants with this, Or I can water my big plants with just about 1 jug of this. 1 gallon, 1 gallon. But a milk jug wouldn't do. This is like thicker plastic. Milk jugs are too wobbly, unstable. This is perfectly ergonomic, perfect pouring precision. This is the best extra plant thing I've ever bought. It is a pressurized sprayer. It's by the brand Gartal. Unfortunately, this one is sold out. It has been sold out for at least a year now. I get so many questions about this thing, but unfortunately it is sold out. I don't know if they're ever gonna have it available again. Hopefully they do, because it's awesome. And if they do, I will come back and add a link to this. This is the best pressurized sprayer I have ever tried. Believe me, I have tried many sprayers over the years. This one is the one to me. I use this for watering my small plants where it's, you know, if you have any of those plants where like Sansevieria or small succulents that kind of grow wider, the leaves grow wider than the planter, it can be hard to find an in or an opening to like pour water in. This, you can twist this little nozzle and it does such a direct, perfect stream to help water those smaller plants with the bigger leaves where it's hard to find that opening. I also use this for watering any of my terrariums, especially my cabinet terrarium, because I can also turn the spray super, super misty, give it a really good covering. I only have to fill this up once and it just really evenly distributes the water around. So I love this thing. It's awesome. You just pump it, spray. Oh, I did have water in there. I was like, it's not gonna spray. I don't have water in there, but there's a little bit of water in there. Pump it, spray, and then once I'm done, if there's still water in here, but I'm done using it, you just release the pressure and it doesn't spray anymore. So this thing is awesome. I can add the liquider into it and spray the liquider into my terrariums or whatever plants I need to. So they also get some liquider. Easy peasy. Last watering thing, this 2-gallon pressurized sprayer. This is the Chapin brand. Chapin, I think? Yeah, Chapin. This one is 2 gallons, which when I bought this, I thought it was going to be really nice for it to be bigger. But in hindsight, I wish I would have just bought the 1-gallon one. It would be easier to carry around. And if I'm being honest, I have actually had some issues with this. This wire is super annoying on this one. I just can't get it to straighten out. So yeah, that has been kind of annoying. The lid no longer screws all the way down. So when I do pump it to add pressure, it makes a lot of noise because the pressure is able to escape out of this lid. I'm not even gonna put a link to this one because I don't think it was really nice in the beginning. It's not something that is going to last me super long term. I'm gonna use it as long as I can. And when I do go to upgrade this one, probably a few years down the line, I go to replace this, I will buy a Gartal brand pressurized sprayer. They have a 1.35 gallon one, which again is the same brand that this one came from. I just love this one so much. I know that their large size sprayer will be a lot better quality than this and not too much more expensive. So yeah, those are what I use to water. Pest management. 4 products in my pest management strategy. We'll kind of go in order of what my strategy is. Number 1, preventatives. Neem oil, this is my main pest prevention method. Neem oil is a natural pesticide and fungicide. This stuff smells like somebody's cooking up freshly chopped onions and garlic in the kitchen. You'll have to let me know, but I personally don't mind the smell of it. Kind of when I smell it, I'm like, oh, somebody's upstairs making me like an amazing homemade pasta sauce, starting with the onions and the garlic. Kind of makes me hungry. Maybe I should be ashamed to admit that, but anyway, it actually acts as a repellent. It helps reduce the amount of feeding that pests do on a plant. So even spraying down a plant that doesn't have any issues with neem oil, not only are the leaves going to look really shiny because it's an oil, but it also is going to help reduce the amount of pests that end up on the plant to begin with. It also disrupts the what's the word, like reproductive cycle, the hormones involved with the insect reproductive cycles. So where it's not going to massacre any pest outbreaks or anything like that, it is definitely going to slow down the reproductive cycle. Keep things a little bit more minimal as far as an outbreak goes, so things don't like explode too crazy. This one is also a concentrate. I left my spray bottle for it upstairs. This is actually for a different product, but I use a basic spray bottle like this with one of these nozzles for my neem oil. Works like a charm. My other preventative mosquito bits. This is by far the product I've been using the longest in my plant keeping since almost day one. Seriously, this is my second bottle of it, and two main ways I like to use this. I like to add a little bit of this into my potting mix before I go to pot a plant. I'll just sprinkle a little bit in, mix it up, and add that to the plant as my preventative of fungus gnats. You guys, I promise you, this stuff works like a charm. If you have a problem plant with fungus gnats kind of swirling around, sprinkle some of this on the top of the plant. I promise you guys, it will get rid of your fungus gnat outbreak. Just make sure you sprinkle a little bit on the top of all of your plants if you have an outbreak, so they don't like move plant to plant. But it is mammal safe, so you don't have to worry about it affecting your pets negatively. If you just sprinkle a little bit to the tops of your substrate in your planters, water it in, it'll do the trick, I promise you. Fair warning, if you're going to try this, mosquito bits do get fuzzy. They do get moldy looking. Be aware of that if you go to use the bits. Like, don't be shocked when it happens or think that anything bad is happening. It is supposed to happen. Fungus gnat and mosquito larvae are attracted to that. That's what makes them want to eat it. And once they eat it, that's when they're gonna die. So you want that to be happening. That's a good thing. If it bugs you can always push the bits through the top layer of soil and kind of cover them up, so you don't see it happening. It'll still be happening, but it'll be out of sight, out of mind. So yeah, mosquito bits. To take care of any outbreaks I may have where I do actually see bugs, mealy bugs, spider mites, really anything. If I see a bug crawling around on my plants that I need to get rid of, or I'm concerned of an outbreak, I like to treat with Captain Jack's Dead Bug. This stuff is also a concentrate, so it goes a really long way. You buy it once and you can use it. You'll have enough for 2-3 years, I think, unless your outbreaks are like too crazy, in which case maybe there's an underlying issue, but there are instructions on the back for how to dose this, how much to mix into your sprayer. The sprayer I showed you before is my Dead Bug sprayer. It works, you guys, it works. I don't know how it works, but it works. If you have an outbreak and you spray your plants with this consistently, it is going to solve the problem and get things back under control. Highly, highly recommend this, especially if you're somebody with a large collection where you just need something that you can very easily spray a plant down. It works. The last most hardcore pest method I use are systemic granules. This stuff, if you've tried the other methods or you have a big outbreak that's, you know, overtaking like a whole shelf of plants, it can be really hard to keep up with the spray solutions that you have to keep reapplying. That can take up a lot of time. Even on one plant, it can feel like a lot to be sure to spray one plant down every couple of days. It's just another thing to like remember to do. If you have an outbreak that is getting out of control, you have kind of lost control on your pest treatment system, nothing kind of seems to be working, it's just kind of growing and spreading, this is 100% going to solve the problem for you. If you're dosing it properly and then watering it in, your plant roots are going to take up the systemic. It is an internal protection that doesn't wash off over time, so it really will stop bugs in their tracks, kind of no matter where in their life cycle they are. If the larva feeds off of anything with this, if an adult feeds off of anything with this, this is by far the quickest method to get rid of them. But again, you do need to be careful because if not dosed properly, it really can harm plant health. This one is not mammal safe, so be very careful. Maybe don't just willy-nilly go applying this to plants. Maybe move any plants that are in general living areas into its own confined tote with a lid on it, lock it, do whatever you need to, put something heavy on it so that your kids or your pets aren't going to be ingesting this, because if they do, just don't. It won't be good. I was very apprehensive to try this, ended up trying it out with a huge, terrible, horrible mealy bug outbreak I had a year ago. Got the literally infestation. My plants were just coated under control, and now I'm mealybug free. I'm not currently using this on anything, although I do like appreciate having it in the repertoire in case anything does get too out of control. On to lighting. Lighting is kind of a weird category for me because they aren't necessarily things that I want to have to introduce into my house. Like, I don't love spending money on lighting or anything like that. I do, however, want to have beautiful, healthy plants. Lighting in the house I live in right now, where it's kind of dark, not super well lit, these are things that I kind of have to spend my money on to maintain my collection since we moved into this house. My last house was way well lit. I didn't need to have any grow lights, but here I definitely need grow lights. In this lighting category, I am going to break it down into two sections. Section number one are the less aesthetic lighting options, and section number two are the nicer looking lighting options. In this first section, one of my favorite little hacks is to add GE full spectrum bulbs into pre-existing features. So I have done this in my bathroom upstairs. These full spectrum lights, like I see a huge difference in the plants in these rooms after I move them into this room versus what they looked like before, just off of the natural lighting in my house. Again, it's not very much lighting, and I don't have any instruments to like measure the LUTs or whatever, anything too scientific like that, but just with my own two eyeballs, I can tell a difference. I can put a struggling plant that I know is light deficient into these rooms with these GE bulbs and know that they're going to perk up. I don't like leave them on all day or anything, but if, you know, somebody flicks on the light in the bathroom to do their thing, whatever the thing is, I know like the plants are getting a little extra burst of stronger light. No light from this tiny little window here reaches this Monstera elbow, but this Monstera elbow is still able to grow. The only light that this plant is getting is from the grow bulbs in the light fixture, and these are the GE grow bulbs. So these lights are great, and they're definitely the most cost-effective option. I think they're like maybe $6 a piece or something like that. And they don't look too terrible either. In this category, I've also added two Barina strip lights onto my IKEA shelf. This is where I keep my highlight loving plants, my like Sansevieria, succulents, you know, those plants. I keep them under these and they grow much better. I don't love the look of these lights, but it is again a necessity for me to be able to keep plants on the shelf. Nowhere in my house is well enough lit. These strip lights, they're ugly. I'll be honest, they're ugly. They don't look great. If you want a little bit nicer, more sleek looking option, going to the more aesthetic, visually pleasing section of this category, of this lighting category, the strip lights that I think are a little bit nicer looking are the Mother Official strip lights. Not only does this one look more sleek and nice, it's also great for terrariums because it can withstand humidity. The humidity isn't going to cause any like fires or weird sparking or anything like that. So the Mother Official strip light is the one that I use in my cabinet terrarium upstairs. It produces enough light to light the bottom of the terrarium, and that's what more could I ask for? It looks great and it does its job. It is definitely more of a splurge compared to the other strip lights I showed you, but if you want a nicer option for something like an IKEA terrarium, to help keep my large Dracaena well enough lit, I keep it underneath of a Soltech, what is it called? The Aspect light. When you buy it, you can choose if you want it to have like a wider lighting angle or a more direct lighting angle. You like mount it on the wall on this little stick thing. It hangs out and you can raise or lower it depending on how far away you want it to be from your plants. This is a light I would definitely buy another one of if I needed to introduce any more lights. I think this is probably my favorite option out of all of the lighting I'm talking about today. If I were to recommend only one piece of lighting to you, this would be it. It does the job, but it also looks really nice. Aspect Soltech light. I also have a Highland track light system by Soltech. In fact, the room we're sitting in now, all of these big plants that are growing, getting all wild and crazy and out of control in here, these all sit underneath a Highland track light. In my office, I also have one mounted to the actual like light in the room. So when I flick on the switch, the Highland light turns on. They work so well, but I know that these are such a splurge. Straight up, these were gifted to me, and I am not saying to rush out and buy them, but if you have like a whole wall or multiple shelves, a shelving unit like this that can fit a lot of plants, I do think that maybe investing in a Highland system could be worth it in the long run. Once I introduced artificial full spectrum light options into my collection, my plants really took off, and I think it made me pretty aware of how much light plants actually need. It's much more obvious now because they are just popping off. Like they're clearly, I thought they were happy before all the grow lights and stuff in this house. Since adding the lights all over to this house, things are just so much happier generally. My favorite thing about the track lights are you can add more or less lights onto the track. You can slide them along the track. You can also swivel and adjust the light part to hit wherever you kind of want them to. So this is my favorite part of the whole thing. I love that I can kind of aim them to darker corners. Like if I notice a plant is a little bit sad, like, oh, maybe it needs a little more light, I can just slightly angle the track light to hit it a little bit more, and easy as that. Like I don't have to worry about it anymore, and I don't even have to move the plant out of its spot. Anything in this room, I can very easily angle. I have 4 on this track up here. I can angle the lights differently to make sure that every corner of this room is being well lit, and I freaking love that. It has been so nice, but definitely a splurge. And then the last lighting I have added into my house are mine and Ryan's nightstand lights. So these are the lights that, you know, like at nighttime before we go to bed, if we're reading a book or doing our planners or whatever we're doing, these are the lights these are the last lights to turn off in the house. I do really love these Hero aquatic lights because they're pretty portable. They look good. I can kind of move them wherever I need a lighting solution for any small plants. Unfortunately, the only downside of these is you really can't use them on any plants that get too tall. I have kept multiple different plants underneath these lights, but they have outgrown the light over time. Of course, like I want my plants to grow. That is definitely just the one downside. Once the plants grow out of it, it's kind of done. There's no real fixing it. So I just have to like swap the plant, move the bigger plant down here, and then put a smaller plant up on my thing. Sansevieria, succulents, you know, plants that stay kind of compact. It works for it. I like these. I like them a lot. Now to the miscellaneous display section. I'm not going to tell you every single place I've ever bought a display item product from, but definitely my favorites and the ones that stand out to me. Starting off like furniture wise, I love my IKEA shelf is my favorite plant display thing. I love the glass shelves because they're super easy to clean. I could also add these grow lights onto it, and they're like the perfect distance from the grow lights for my plants. Kind of the only thing I want to talk about furniture wise in this section. I bought this so long ago, like 8 years ago, and we still have it, and I still love it. And it fits in a lot of different places in my house. I also feel like I need to mention these clear planters. I have this size and then a like 12-inch size as well. I really use these more for plants I'm trying to propagate or grow up before I pot them into a nicer looking planter upstairs in my house or like on the shelf or wherever it is. But these are definitely more like interim, is that the word, planters, where if a plant needs repotted and I don't know what I want to be potting it into, I'll pop them in one of these. That way I can keep track of the root system, so I can really keep track of what's going on with my plant root systems that I have growing in these and see, you know, like when things are getting root bound, when a plant needs to be watered, or if a plant has root mealies, I should be able to see the root mealies. I haven't had that happen yet, but I can see through the planter. It's really helpful. And outside of just like specific plants being able to keep tabs on them, I do think that growing plants in these clear planters has taught me a lot about different root systems and like being able to watch how different the like Monstera root system is. Roots are really big and chunky and strong compared to more hair-like, delicate root systems like Peperomia. I really enjoy being able to see the difference in different root systems like that. I think it has taught me a lot about how I need to adjust watering from one plant type to another based on what the root systems look like. So I do think this has really leveled up my plant care like overall. They are so easy. You can leave them clear like this. You can pop them into cover pots. I don't really bother doing that. If I'm gonna put a plant in a cover pot, I'm just gonna pot it directly in the cover pot. Where they're not the most beautiful planters in the whole world, they are fun and make me enjoy and also learn more as I'm taking care of my plants. Even on my plants that aren't in clear plants, I see that they have similar root systems, like they probably have similar needs, you know? Bonsai wire. I bought this originally to do some bonsai and then never ended up doing it, but it still has come in very handy, and I haven't used these chunkier ones yet, but these smaller gauged ones I've used a ton. For example, I had a Pilia peperomoides with a pretty thick stem fall and snap, and I used bonsai wire to help hold the trunk together so that it would fuse back together, and it did end up doing that over time. This helped hold things in place. I've also recently started using this on my Hoya as an easy, super quick, easy like trellis type thing. You know how Hoyas kind of grow like out? I want them to grow up, so I've started using the bonsai wire. I'll like stick it in the pot, wrap it around all of the vines, and keep them growing together up. So it saves shelf space, keeps things very organized. My vines aren't getting tangled up together like how Hoya vines like to do. You know, the little tendrils just kind of grab wherever they can grab. This helps keep things under control. So I think this is a very inexpensive thing to add to a plant collection that can help solve a lot of unforeseen, a lot of just like pop-up little small issues. This can come in so handy. So yeah. For hanging plants, I really, I'm sure you can tell because I have multiple of these all over the place in my house. I really like these black wire plant baskets. They come with some sort of like cocoa fiber basket inside, which I don't actually use those parts. Well, I have one plant potted and one up here. I usually just take that out and use only the basket. They look really good. I love that I can put a planter in here and still be able to see the planter. I just really love the like black wrought iron. It's not actually wrought iron, but I love the black wrought iron look of these planters. They look so cute. When I went to France last year, I saw this style set up everywhere. The plants growing on the black wrought iron, and I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. So this was a very easy thing for me to add into my house to get kind of that same look in a less expensive way. I think these look good and I love them. What else? Is there anything else? Oh, I also have humidifiers all around the place to help keep things humid. Not only good for my plants, it's also good for my nasal cavities to help keep things slime coated, to help keep things moist. 5 humidifiers total, all of which were gifted to me, but I do really like them and I think that they do their job and do it well. So I have 2 Levoit humidifiers and then 3 Dreo humidifiers. I'm not going to go into super detail about the differences in each of the humidifiers I have and like what the pros and cons are, but I do have dedicated videos. I have a Levoit video and then also a Dreo video that goes more in depth on how each of these humidifiers works, all the little button options and what they do and like how to set them up. So I'm not going to repeat myself on that, but I'll have those videos linked. If you are looking to add a humidifier to your house, you can kind of see a couple different options in review down there. Yeah, I do like my humidifiers. I think they do a good job. Looking around trying to see if there's anything I forgot. I don't think I forgot anything. I'm pretty sure I hit everything I wanted to hit. So again, all those links will be down below. If you have a tried and true product that you're like, people need to know about this, please leave a comment. Maybe I'll do a video like trying out some of your product recommendations. Like maybe I'll test them out. So I don't know, that could be fun. Or if you had any adverse experience with the products I've recommended, I want to hear that as well. I want to make as informed decisions as possible when it comes to my plant keeping and the products I spend my money on. Please, all the opinions, all the comments, any fleeting thought, kudos to all of you that made it to the end of this video because I know I'm kind of yappy. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time.